They say the doll found in the attic doesn't move. Not unless you forget where you left it. When Alara Mallory moved into the crumbling Victorian manor she inherited from her estranged grandmother, she was more focused on escaping her own ruined life than inspecting the shadows that seemed to watch from the walls. On her third night, a storm hit. The electricity faltered, flickered, and failed. By candlelight, she found a locked chest in the attic. Wrapped in tattered lace, nested in moth-eaten blankets, was Anaceel, a porcelain doll no taller than a wine bottle, with one glass eye cracked and a mouth sewn shut with human hair. Alara, a former antique restorer, considered selling it. But that night, she dreamed of a little girl with no mouth, standing at the foot of her bed, pointing at her throat. When she woke up, the doll was sitting beside her pillow. Alara began hearing faint whispers in the walls. Old floorboards creaked with deliberate steps. The doll never stayed in the same place, always inching closer. It seemed bound to a pattern, a set of unwritten rules. 1. Never forget where you last placed her. 2. Never speak her name aloud after midnight. 3. Never try to burn her. She tested the third rule, built a fire in the hearth, placed the doll inside. It didn't scream, but the entire chimney bled. Thick black sludge poured onto the floor. The doll was back on her mantel the next morning, covered in soot and grinning. The stitches were gone from her mouth. She uncovered old journals hidden behind a loose floorboard. Her grandmother had once belonged to a secret society, the Order of the Binding Tongue, a group that believed certain souls could be trapped in objects to stop them from spreading madness. Anaceel had once been a real child, a mute girl who killed 7 people before vanishing. The doll was a vessel meant to contain her. But someone had undone the seal. Alara realized every whisper was a word stitched back onto Anaceel's mouth. When she regained her full voice, she would speak a name that would open something far worse than death. The whispers grew stronger. They came with voices of people long dead. Alara heard her ex's voice screaming from the cellar, her mother crying from behind the walls. Anaceel began humming. The doll's mouth slowly opened wider each day, and with each opening, the house grew colder, darker. The walls began to weep. Paint peeled away like skin. Mirrors cracked if Alara walked past them holding the doll. She tried to bury it. It returned. She threw it in a river. It showed up wet and smiling on her kitchen counter. The final night, Alara set up cameras. She took sleeping pills, determined to document the truth. At 3:33 a.m., every clock in the house stopped. On the footage, Anaceel stood up on her own. She walked. She leaned over Alara, pressed her mouth to her ear, and spoke one word. The moment the sound played, the footage corrupted. The screen went black. Authorities found the house empty, save for the doll sitting in the attic chest again. But her mouth was stitched shut once more. And in the footage's last frame, Alara's reflection in a broken mirror smiled with someone else's eyes. 3 months later, the house is sold to a newlywed couple, Jude and Marla Denham. They never learn about Alara. Records list the property as clean. The couple moves in and begins renovations. One afternoon, while tearing down a nursery wall, Jude discovers a hidden room. A place with no door from the outside, filled with children's drawings, scratched into the walls using fingernails. On the floor, nestled in a circle of salt, is Anaceel. The salt has been scraped open from the inside. Marla begins hearing children laughing under the floorboards. At night, she wakes up with her hands around her husband's neck, unaware she's moved. The couple sets up motion sensors. They record the sound of small, frantic footsteps running up walls, across ceilings. No figure is ever seen. Only shadows, twitching and stretching like broken limbs. Anaceel begins appearing in mirrors. Not her full form, just parts. Her hand, her cracked eye, her open mouth behind someone brushing their teeth. Jude finds an old reel-to-reel tape hidden in the basement titled, "She's Learning to Speak." He plays it. The tape screams. That night, Marla begins coughing up black thread. Word spreads. The Order of the Binding Tongue, long thought dead, reconvenes. Cloaked figures arrive at the house in the dead of night, bringing with them relics, silver tongues, stitched mouths, jars filled with moths. They claim the doll is not Anaceel. It is what Anaceel became. They perform a ritual to silence her forever. They fail. On the seventh chant, all the lights explode. The order is slaughtered. Their tongues are missing. The final footage from a headcam shows the doll crawling across the ceiling, mouth open, whispering backwards in an ancient dialect. The house is sealed by authorities. The doll is placed in deep storage beneath an unmarked building. And still, every now and then, workers claim to hear a girl humming in the vents. After the failed ritual, the site is shut down. The order's corpses are buried in unmarked graves, their tongues never recovered. The house is sealed and condemned. But a backup recording of the ritual, corrupted and glitch-ridden, ends up leaking online, shared by a horror YouTuber as a Creepypasta deep dive. Within days, viewers report hearing whispering through their headphones, seeing the doll in dreams they never had before, speaking a word they don't remember learning. One viewer, a teen in Pennsylvania, live streams herself watching the video. At the 12-minute mark, she goes completely still. Then she smiles and says clearly she's finished sewing her voice. The camera feed distorts. For exactly 11 frames, Anaceel appears standing behind her, hands raised. The stream ends. The girl vanishes. Her channel stays live. A loop of a doll's lullaby plays non-stop. The curse evolves. It no longer needs the doll to be physically present. The idea of Anaceel is enough. People who hear her name too often begin to experience nosebleeds when walking past antique stores, uncontrollable compulsion to collect broken toys, sleep paralysis with the sound of sewing behind their head. Whispers bleed into cities. Entire buildings are evacuated due to auditory phenomena. An underground group calling themselves the Thread Keepers begins spreading tapes and books meant to delay her voice's full form. But no one can agree on what Anaceel's true name is anymore. It's shifting, like a code rewriting itself. An asylum ward. A girl sits motionless on her bed, humming a tune that doesn't exist. In her lap is a doll made of chewed paper and human hair. No one gave it to her. She looks at the nurse and whispers, "She's not a doll anymore. She's language." Lights flicker, and in every room in the facility, the same whisper is heard. Anaceel. Not from the patients, from the walls.